right, good evening, everyone. This is In the Mix with the Mitchells. I am Toney Mitchell.
And I'm Sanita Mitchell.
And we are the perfect family blend, where it's our mission to build, nurture, and keep blended families together.
Yes, welcome to our Wednesday In the Mix session. We really look forward to this all week. We kind of plan and talk about it. So this is a big highlight for us. So, man, this has been a lot of things going on in the world, right? We got the whole thing with R. Kelly. We got people, making bribes at schools, and these are wealthy people, right? So we gotta and then that almost goes in line with what we're talking about when we're talking about trust and money tonight. So trust in marriage and trust in our finances. It's a lot of stuff going on that'll make, shake the foundation of any relationship.
Yeah, and when you really think about the divorce rates and you look at the statistics of the primary causes of divorce, communication and finances are the top two things, and they interchange. So one it might be communication, the other might be finances, and both of them go together.
Right. Actually, according to Dave Ramsey, he said the number one reason why couples split is finances. And so we're going to be using some of his tips on truth and money. And then we also have our expert here, Veronica Burnett, who's going to be helping us financial. She's about healthy relationships, but she's also good about getting your money, get that money right.
She's going to get your money right.
So we have her here. But as always, we always open up the show with some announcements because, our topics are usually really good. And by the end of the show, we kind of run out of time. So we try to do our announcements at the beginning. So as you guys know, we have Anaya's Project, which is our nonprofit, our 501c3 organization, and we will be celebrating 1 year.
Woo!
On April 27th from 10:30 to 2 p.m. We will be having our 1 year celebration at the Mercy Grace Center in Landover, Maryland. You can buy your tickets at bit.ly, Anaya's Project 1 year. Yeah, 1 year. So listen, we're going to be raising our funds for cuddle cots. We're going to have silent auctions. We're going to have raffles. We already have the food being sponsored by Olive Garden. Yes. We have Wegmans who is participating in our raffle. We have books. We have all kinds of things that people are donating to help us raise funds. So all we need is you. We have a special speaker, Siobhan Odom, that's going to be coming and enlightening us and just motivating us. And also our special guests, our beautiful butterflies that will be there to be a part of the honoring of our angel babies. So you don't want to miss this event. The cost is $45 until March 20th. The next one is Toney and I, we do go out and we speak about blended families. And so we're going to be a part of a conference, Blended with Love Blended Family Conference, which is going to be held on May 4th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. in Woodbridge, Virginia. Tickets are $45. That seemed to be the magic number for tonight, $45. And you can purchase your tickets. Listen, they have a wonderful and amazing lineup where they're not going to just be talking, but I believe there is also a paint and sip that's going to be there. So they got some wonderful, wonderful facilitators lined up. You can purchase your tickets at www.sharonkelly.com. You can go there and purchase your tickets. And then last but not least, look, your girl Sanita Mitchell is just really busy, right? We got all these different businesses with Mitchell Enterprise, right? So I'm actually hosting my first event because I really love, thank you, I really love helping to help people strategize their programs, their events, the thoughts in their head, and help them get it on paper, but not just get it on paper, but help them to visualize and execute it by giving them strategies that they can do to bring their vision to life. So I'll be hosting that first event called Plan, Prepare, and Pursue, which is going to be on March 30th, and that's from 9 to 1 p.m., 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. You can purchase your tickets for that at SanitaMitchell.com. Again, that ticket price, $45. And all the whole day. Everything is $45, right? For $45, you can participate in these wonderful events, making a difference. So, so those are all of our announcements. So I want to bring up our guests.
Yes.
And I'm going to, Toney's sweating. He's just a hot box.
I'm a hot box.
But, but no, I wasn't slapping him. I wasn't laying him out and laying hands on him. Yeah. But, you know, but like all honesty, trust, and finances, it is one, like we said, the number one thing that can make or break a relationship. Yes. Whether you're dating, whether you're engaged, whether you're married, whether you've been married for a month, whether you've been married for 100 years, right? People have been married for a long time now. And so this is an important topic. And so we're going to have Veronica Burnett, and I'm going to introduce her now, and then when we come back from the break, we're going to get right on into it, okay? So Veronica Burnett, her vision is to educate and empower and encourage individuals to break free from dead-end cycles, to be fearless in their pursuit of happiness, and be focused on finding their divine purpose in life. Whew. And so, listen, we're going to take a really short break. We're going to bring her up. And the next time you see us, it'll be Toney, me, and Veronica. All right, stay right there. Don't go away.
In 2018, I personally helped several people reclaim their healthy lives with a ketogenic lifestyle. Together with our team at Wakaya Perfection, we have helped over 4,000 people struggling with weight loss, burn off unwanted fat naturally, control hypertension, type 2 diabetes, and high cholesterol with our Beulah Fit Keto Fuel Shake and high-impact ginger and turmeric. Contact me for yours. Buttons about that ketolife.mywakaya.com. That's BUTTONSBOUTTATE.MYWAKAYA.com or call 202-875-3926.
This is a keto-friendly diet, and weight loss expectation is approximately 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results can and will vary.
Business owners looking for a place to advertise your business and promote your products and services? VoxWave is the right place. We have over 10,000 views a day and 70,000 listeners a month. For more information, contact Reg Gaskins at 240-832-4455.
VoxWave now features a streaming radio media player on our website's front page, where local artists can get their music played 24/7. For more information on getting your music in rotation or to perform live at our studio, contact Reg Gaskins at 240-832-4455.
All right, welcome back to In the Mix with the Mitchells. I am Toney Mitchell, joined by my beautiful wife, Sanita Mitchell, and our special guest, Veronica Burnett.
Yes, Ronnie. So go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say tonight's topic is about trust and finances. And if you have any questions or anything, you could call in right into the station at 240-719-2560. Again, the number is 240-719-2560.
Yes, thank you, because I didn't forget that. That was part of the announcements that I forgot. So, Ronnie, listen. Yes, I call her Ronnie. Yeah, so tell the people a little bit about you, and we'll start that way.
Well, I didn't know you was going to ask me that.
Surprise!
I should be ready,
Be
right?
ready.
Well, I am a proud mom of my wonderful, beautiful, awesome, and amazing daughter, Shelby. And she's doing really well in school. I'm so proud of her. Aside from that, I am the curator of the Better Days Conference, and the name of my business is Veronica Burnett, speaker and advocate of healthy relationships, and that's relationships of all kinds. And the other things I do. Dressmaker, so I'm working on a prom dress right now and have to have that done by the end of the month. Right. Me. And also financial service planner. And so I specialize in legacy wealth building, tax-free retirement, you name it. Just helping our community get educated about money, finances, their retirement, everything, just so that their families can be safe and they can make sure that their families are taken care of in the event of a demise or just because,
Right.
So
Anything, car accident, you go to work, disability,
terminal illnesses, critical illnesses, chronic illnesses. You want to be taken care of just in case those things happen so that you're not displaced,
Right, not doing a GoFundMe.
No.
GoFundMe is not your...
That's not your insurance.
That is not your life insurance. That is not your retirement, your 401k, right? So what was a tool that was really a good tool to help people who needed to raise money has now become like almost a replacement for life insurance, right?
End of life plans and things like that. But we want to make sure that our community and just people at large will know that you don't have to settle for that. You can put something in place. Something that's affordable and something that's going to take care of your family just in case the unfortunate happens. And we don't like to talk about it. People think that insurance and retirement and things like that is so overwhelming and it's going to bring a bad omen. But no, you really need to be prepared.
You got to talk about it. You got to talk
about it. Yeah.
That's good because so she brought it up. So since she talked about retirement and life insurance, like those are key conversation pieces when you have, like you said, we can't not talk about it. So we don't talk about it with our parents, and we don't talk about it in a relationship. So when should we have those conversations, like with our parents? Like, do we go home and just be like, look, where's your life insurance plan? Where is your will? Where is your...
Actually, you can go online and get a list of everything that you need, but just in case right now, so if you're taking notes, then just make sure you go and you ask about the life insurance policy. If you have one with your job, how much is it for? Is it going to be portable? Most of the time, it is not portable.
What's portable?
Portable means that if you leave that job, you can take that insurance plan with you. Most of the time, you cannot because the employer has a group insurance policy and it covers the employees. But when you leave, that insurance policy stays there. So what happens if you have to leave? Do you have something else in place? And so that you really do need to know where that is. Do you have a separate policy? Is it going to cover the house? Is it going to cover the children? Is it going to cover any of the debts that you have out there? Is it going to cover any of the debts that you currently have so that your family does not have to use the insurance policy to pay for that? Do you have a will? Do you have an executor of your will? Have you sat down with an estate planner? Many people think that you need to sit down with an estate planner when you have an exorbitant amount of money. No, you could have one house, one car, and a checking account or a savings account. You still want someone to help you plan out what to do with that money and sit down with your executor. That's the person that will execute the will and make sure that things go as planned, that the way that you want it to go in your will. And you should really go home and sit down with your parents, sit down with your children, and ask all of those questions. Who is going to be the person that...
I was going to say, should you tell them, like, you're the beneficiary of this $1.5 million? Then, I watch Snap, so I don't know. Do you want to tell people that, tell your teenager or your, but some people, once they find out that you have these, $250,000 or $500,000 life insurance policy, and then we watch TV. So it's like, do you tell them who the beneficiaries are, or do you just say the life insurance plan is inside this vote?
Well, I think you should know based on that person's age and maturity. So you can talk to your son. I think you have a son that's 16.
He's like 26.
So you can talk to him, both of your sons, and tell them, no, this is where my plan is. And your oldest, you can say, yeah, you are a beneficiary. Your 16-year-old really doesn't need to know all those details,
right.
but at least know where it is.
Right.
You know, just in case, note and let him know, yeah, you are taken care of if something happens to mom and dad. But definitely you need to know whether that person is mature enough to handle the information. But you don't have to divulge everything. They need to know where it is.
Yeah, that's key.
Where it is.
And I was going to ask a question centered on the wills. You find that a lot of families and family members, until the person dies, doesn't have a will. So how easy is it to actually get a will done?
It's very easy. You sit down and you write out what you want.
That's it.
You don't have to get it
You don't have
notarized.
If you want it notarized, you can take it and have it notarized. That makes it even more official. But if you take it and notarize it and then you change it later on, sign it, date it, have a witness that you are signing and that you're changing it, or that you are writing one initially, take someone with you. It doesn't cost a lot for a lawyer to review it for you. And it doesn't cost a lot for you to have it notarized. But make sure you have something in writing. Otherwise, you leave it up to the family to decide. Like, what if you want to wear purple when you're... I mean, you put all of those things in there. What if you say, I want my casket on a horse-drawn carriage?
Right.
It needs to be written down. What if you want a specific song at your funeral? Or what if you want a specific... Just whatever you want,
if you
but
want
make
something
sure it's
specific.
written so that the people who have to execute everything don't have to guess. It's specifically written and laid out for each person to review and to follow. And if they don't, then that's another family issue to deal with. But most of the time, people do follow that will. It's not hard to write it. It really is. You can go on the internet and find that.
Yeah, you can go to LegalZoom.
Yeah,
LegalZoom, all you got to do is type it in, and that's already, LegalZoom.com. That's your friend. They do just about any legal document for you, and you can just sit behind your computer and you can fill it out. And like you said, I think that's so important. So like you're saying, it doesn't matter if you have a lot of money. It don't matter if you got $200. You need to say where you want that $200, because I'm gonna tell you, especially as a married couple, you gotta have these things in place, because I've seen widows who they did not have these things, and a lot of stuff they didn't know that their spouses had a whole lot of other property or a lot of other debt. So what happened is the state then comes in and they're having to divvy up and figure out, pay taxes, pay this money, and figuring out all these different things. So you want to have that so that, like you said, the unimaginable occur. But look, it's not that unimaginable, because we know that everybody has a date.
Yeah.
So you need to prepare for that date. It's not something you want to talk. You may not want to talk about it every day, but you want to at least maybe. How often should we talk about this? Like, should we talk about it quarterly? Should we talk about it twice a year?
I would say at least once a year, have a review of all of your financial documents. Definitely definitely make sure you go over your insurance policies. Make sure that you still want the same amount. If something has changed, you may move to a smaller house in the middle of the year, and you may not need as much in your money going towards your house and things like that. You may sell it all together. Then you don't need $500,000 if you have a $50,000 condo. You may want to review that. You want to review your will again, just in case something happens. What if your beneficiary passes before you?
Wow.
That's
Do
true.
you have a second beneficiary? What if you get a divorce in the middle of the year or at the beginning of the year, right after you've done your will? You have to go back and make those changes. So it's very important that you have those documents nearby in a safe place. Definitely a safe place. I would suggest a lockbox in your house. either with a combination or just a padlock, just something that you know you can get to quickly, but it's safeguarded from fire and water.
Right. Right. Like I know some people, they get like they get PO, well, they don't get PO boxes, but they go to the bank and they get one of those vaults and they put their papers in there. That way they safe deposit box. So that way it's there and they don't have to worry about, it's insured by the bank, and they don't have to worry about, hey, if I forget the code, if I forget, something happened and I can't remember, because everybody don't always tell their family members where their things are.
Exactly.
So that's really good. That's good on the life insurance and the wheels. So please, that's the first 10 minutes, right? We done hit y'all with some important things. Let's look at those retirement papers. Let's look at those wheels. And if you don't have one, get it done. You can write it now. You could write it tonight and know that you have it set in stone. I know you spend time talking about like the actual homegoing services, but the wheel is also for this laptop. Where do you want it to be? Because I've seen so many family members get in heated discussions about, well, mom wanted me to have this car, and the fur coat and the bed and this memento and this piece of jewelry and that. So just eliminate that by saying, write it all out and say, this is what I want, and this is where I want things to go. And that would eliminate it while you're in your right frame of mind. So your family don't say, well, Toney, you tried to have your mama do that while she wasn't in her right mind, right?
But that's the reason you would have a witness there with you to go over it again with you and make sure that when you're signing it, that witness says, yes, I was right there with her when she wrote this, when she signed it, she said that, or he said, this is what they want. And they were in their right frame of mind. There are times when that's not always the case,
Yes.
And then there are times when people strong arm a senior into making changes to their will. So you just have to be careful and watch that, and always
do it with an attorney. Then, like if you just like right now, while you in your right frame of mind, and you don't want anybody to come back and try to contest it later and say, oh, she picked, how ironic, she chose this person. So to eliminate that, just like she said, make the investment. This short-term investment brings forth a long-term peace of mind for you and your family. So it's definitely worth it.
I just want to ask one quick question. So with estate planning, and speaking from the perspective of a blended family, how important is it for the blended children? How do you treat them the same as beneficiaries, or do you just, how can that play out, so to speak?
I would say that's at your sole discretion, but you would definitely need to have that conversation with your spouse before putting anything in stone. And then you can tell your children later on, not little children, of course, but I would definitely have that conversation with your spouse and make the decision between the two of you before doing anything, before putting anything in writing. Definitely have the conversation. And it is totally up to you, because the other parent may have something in place for them already. And you just don't know. But if you have the discussion, then that's discovery, and you'll find out.
Right. And that's good, because that's a good question. So I would think that will probably be more of a estate planning lawyer who would be able to know the legalities of, say something happens to Daniel before he's 18. I know that I would want Toney to keep him, but he's still underage. And the courts may say, well, he's 17, he can make his own decision. But for people who have smaller children, that may be a different issue, because the other co-parent is around. So by, laws of the land may say that they may need to go back. But I would just say, if you're in a blended family, that was a good question, Toney. So if you're in a blended family, speak to an estate planner, attorney who can really get those things down, because, it comes a little bit more entangled with who's got custody and what kind of ways you can do it. But as far as your life insurance and wills and giving them things, that's something that you can do no matter if you're in a blended family or not. Because if I say I want my child, if you want Daniel to have such and such, then Daniel will get it because that was your will. But
Right.
as far as all of the where would they go, that's more of a legality issue. So we need to bring in a lawyer on to kind of answer those hard questions.
For you.
Okay, yeah, she got somebody for us.
got somebody
So
for
we'll
us.
have that person come on to ask more about the legalities and, different issues that may arise and how do you make sure people don't contest your handwritten will and things like that. Okay, so that's real good. Okay, so now let's talk about separate accounts. And do have a separate account or have a joint account is the question.
Well, either. Both yes and no. It depends on the relationship. First of all, you need to know and have the conversation with the partner about what their financial identity is. Like, you need to know what Toney knows about money. You need to know what Sanita learned growing up as a child.
Yes.
You need to know
That's what I'm
exactly
saying.
how
Yep.
she feels about money.
Yeah.
Is money emotional for you? I mean, for a lot of people,
That's
you
true.
get very emotional when you're talking about money. So you
Right.
need to know
Right.
what your money identity is. You need to know whether someone is a spender or a saver.
Right.
You can butt heads really
Really
bad.
fast.
Yes,
Yes.
real fast, and you can just spiral downhill from there.
Right.
But definitely have conversation. The one thing I think people are afraid to be is vulnerable when you're talking about money. You really need to be honest and say, hey, I'm not good at budgeting.
Yeah.
I'm not good with money. And so if that's the case, then yeah, maybe you should have a separate account.
Right.
And that person not just leave it at them not being a good with money.
Right.
Have your separate account, but then teach that other person how to manage their money. And then that other person can't be afraid and too prideful to take on that responsibility themselves of learning how to manage that money. So they have their pot, the other partner has theirs, and then you have a joint account where things are paid from.
Right.
Or you could just have the two. It just depends on what works for the two of you.
Right. There's no cookie cutter answer.
No.
But one thing that you brought up was something that we learned in, we took a marriage class at First Baptist Church of Glenarden. They have a couples finance class. And in that finance class, man, was that an eye-awakener. Like, opened our eyes to a lot of things because, like you said, that identity.
Right.
So we talk about, when we're dating, find out what that person's credit score is, find out do they have a savings account, find out are they in debt, right? But like you said, we don't talk about what do they feel about money. Like, why do they make the decisions that they make? So they did a whole exercise about where we had to write down what was our experience with money growing up, because that, for some of the couples in there, we learned why our spouses feel the way they do. So we learned that there was like one couple there that she don't spend no money, okay? None. She's an avid saver. But what it was that the fact that when she grew up, she saw her grandmother and grandfather struggle, and they didn't have food, and they, would fight over money. And so she was like, when I get older, I'm never going to have that issue. And so she hoards money. Like they need a car and they have good money. Like they could just buy a $20,000 car, but she doesn't want to because she's like, well, how are we going to get that money back? How are we going to put that money back? They ain't going to miss it. Her husband is like, hey, we're good. Like, I can go and buy a new car. She's like, no, why don't you get that 1997 car and be happy? But he's like, no, I want a 2000. At that time, it was like 2014.
Right.
And she was like, well, why do you need that? You just need this little car. And so they was really battling. And I loved it because they were the facilitators of the class, but they were having the discussion with us. So even if you're really good and you paid all those things, but what he learned was, hey, okay, I know that you grew up with these types of things, and so it's okay, we're not going to go hungry if I go buy this car. So that, when you know that about the person, you can address it when you're talking about it, because like you said, talking about money is not easy all the time. And you guys feel free to chime in, because I see a lot of people who have been married for a long time, and I see people who talk to singles. So real quick, going back to the joint account or individual account, if I'm single, say I'm not single, say we're engaged, we're talking about marrying, we're going to get married in September 2019, or, we got a date, we're going to get married. When do we talk about joint accounts?
You should have already talked about that before you got engaged. You should have had that conversation long before then. I was in this group the other night, and we were talking about dating, and the gentleman said that you don't wait until months and months and months down the line to talk about the fact that you want to be married one day. Because what if that person didn't want to be married? What if they just wanted to date? So now you've spent, I'm not going to say waste, spent 6 months of your time with this person, but you never told them that you want to be married one day.
Right.
So if you're engaged and you never said, hey, I want us to have separate accounts, and he's saying, well, I thought we were going to have joint accounts. You never had this conversation. You should have this conversation very early. And in that group, he said there's nothing wrong with saying, listen, I want to be married one day, very early in the relationship, very early in getting to know each other. That's part of getting to know someone.
Right.
Long before you decide whether you want to be engaged or married to that person. Because what if their money habits are totally different from yours?
Right.
And what if you clash? Like, I watched a lot of podcasts. So one lady was talking about the fact that her mom did very well with money, and she dressed nice all the time. Her hair was done all the time. Nice clothes, jewelry, perfume, every day she walked out the door. But when it came time to write out her bills and pay the bills, she had on this old ratted-tatted robe. Her hair was all disheveled, and she sat there with these glasses on the tip of her nose, and she looked like she was going through some major life crisis, writing out the bills. But she saw that paying your bills was a bad thing. No, paying your bills on time is a good thing.
It's a great thing.
It's
to be able to pay your bills on time is a wonderful thing.
So if you don't have the conversation early in the relationship, then you really don't know that other person enough to say, I want to be married to you. Very early. I mean, I see nothing wrong with it. And pay attention when you're dating someone. Pay attention to their habits. And I say that because I didn't pay attention early on. And I can always use myself as an example. I'm an open book, try to be transparent. I did not pay attention to the dating the money habits of the person I was with. And I didn't know that all their money was going out the window to whatever habits they had. And I didn't know that person really didn't care about working.
Wow. But that's important.
But it's important to know.
Important.
And so that's why I say pay attention in the beginning to their money habits. Do you hear them talking about their savings? Do you hear them talking about a trip that they went on?
Right.
Or do you hear them talking about shopping all the time?
Right. So that's key when you're talking about being in a joint account or a individual account, keeping the account separate. But it's about having that conversation, because being in that class also, there were some people who had some hang-ups about not merging the accounts. Not because they had a fear that the person wouldn't do anything or would go out and spend all the money. It was more of a trust issue. So when you start talking about, so can you be married and still have trust issues with your finances? Absolutely. And it's because if I'm already got my system over here on paying, my student loans, and I'm good over here, and then you're good on this side. So Toney got his money, and then I got my money, and then it's like we just gonna have this one little pot of another account where we just pay mortgage from that account, or Toney pays the mortgage. Okay, what are you paying, Toney? You're gonna pay the mortgage and the phone, and then I'm gonna pay all the utilities. And we understood where the facilitators from that class was talking about, because if you do it that way, so their theory was marriage is a partnership, and that's what Dave Ramsey, what's his book? Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right?
No, that's not
That's not him. That's not him. Who's that? Who's that? I done named another.
That's Kiyosaki.
Oh, okay. I think gave a whole nother thing. Right here I am. Okay. But gave the book away. Then gave the book to somebody else. But anyway, I could have sworn. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, Dave Ramsey. We're just gonna go with him because that's whose paper I got right here. So Dave Ramsey says that marriage is a partnership, and it was the same thing even in when we was in that Glenn Arden's classes. Marriage is a partnership, so there should be no separate accounts. But what I've learned is that you have to do, some of this is hands-on, right? Mm-hmm. All my married folks and those who've been married before, a lot of things you're going to come up against is you're going hands-on. Yeah. What's going to work for you? Yes. So what's going to work for me, what I might say may work for me and Toney, but that may not work for you and your spouse or you and your significant other.
That's a good segue. So you're having these discussions about finances, and you find out that you're clashing on certain aspects of managing the money. How do you resolve those differences, so to speak?
You definitely have to always talk. Like she said, communication is key. And you were saying how communication is, and finances is one of the, or two of the things that cause breakdown in marriages. You have to talk. Right. And you have to be honest with your partner, your spouse, and say, listen, the process that we have right now is not working for me. Right. So let's sit down and figure out how we can come up with something else. Like even if you start out with separate and joint, you can always go back and reevaluate and make changes that's better for your family. You might go to completely joint. Right. But you have to sit down and talk and tell why you feel a certain way. You may feel like the other person is more in control of the money. Maybe it's the issue that you have from childhood or from a previous relationship. But definitely sitting down and having to communicate the conversation about how you're feeling about that situation and making whatever changes you need to make. You cannot be afraid to make a change and make adjustments. I mean, marriages evolve. Right. So while your financial situation may evolve, you get raises. Right. Some people change jobs, you know. Right. So you have to have that conversation ongoing.
Right. So it's like with us, you know, just being transparent. When we got married, we had separate accounts. Then we went to trying to have one account and then two separate accounts. Then it was like, this is too much work. So then we just was like, joint account. So don't be afraid if you find that things shift and change, especially when you first get started. But that to have the separate account or joint account is something that you have to decide what's going to best work. And a lot of that is trial and error. Okay, so we talked about that, like joint accounts. So what happens when how do you decide who's the money manager? Like how far in do you allow the sinking ship maybe to sink before you say, I'm not good at this?
You know, I was thinking about this earlier today. I'm so glad you asked that question. I would say it is never too late to say, save me, help me. If you find that whoever is managing the money isn't doing a great job or doing well enough and need help, do not be afraid to reach out to a financial advisor. Right. You know, I think the family should continually educate themselves. I think you should go to financial literacy classes, update yourself, maybe once a year, maybe once every 5 years, but definitely take
education.
Yeah, definitely education with that.
And I would say education and implementation. You can go all day. Yes, like we've gone to, and a lot of times people they know what to do. It's just the fact that you don't do it. You know what I mean? Like you can go to Crown Financial, you can sit down and talk to Ronnie, but if you're not going to implement the budget, if you're not going to implement the strategies that they have, then you're wasting time. And so you're not going to see the benefits. So so definitely you got to have that. That is a hard conversation. That is a very hard conversation. And I know it's a hard conversation because we've lived that conversation. That's why we're able to ask that question, is because it's it's hard to let go of the brain. It's hard to say I'm not, what I thought my method was not working, or can you do it?
let me interject. Let me interject. I think if you go into a marriage or relationship knowing that something is going to, you have to adjust to the other person. You have to be open to hearing the other side and understanding that your way may not be the best way, or both ways could work. Why not both and? Why not take what your view is and my views and marry them and see how we can come up with something different? You know, it's not always one way or the other. It could be both and you have to be open to that possibility. You have to be open to change. You have to be open to change. You have to be open to evolving. Nothing stays the same.
Yes.
My budget today is not the same budget I had 5 years ago.
Right.
And 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I didn't have her.
Right.
You
The
know?
budget with children is different.
It's definitely different. So, and even going from being single to being married, your thoughts about marriage, money has to change. Your thoughts about finances has to change in some kind of way.
Right.
It's no longer just you. And then if you're marrying families, you're blending a family. It's not just me. It won't be just me and my daughter whenever I get married. It won't be just me and her. So my idea of money management will have to be different because it's not just her. I don't have to just think about me and her. It's going to have to include the other person and be open to their way of doing things.
So you have to compromise. So even when a person is holding the reins to the financial, I don't want to say burden, because, it's not a heavy thing, but it is, because you got to make sure you're paying the mortgage, paying the lights. That person is kind of doing it. So what we find is you have to still communicate. So even though, say, I'm the financial person, I still need to communicate with Toney on, whether that's something else we learned in the class was, when do you have these conversations? Is it going to be weekly? Is it going to be monthly? Are you, you have to learn that person's learning style. So for Toney, everything with Toney is a presentation. I tell him that's a presentation. So if you want to get everybody out in Facebook and Instagram,
I got notes.
if you want to get Toney's attention, you better put it on a PowerPoint. I'm like, do I really got to come to you with a PowerPoint with charts and slides? Really? But you have to do whatever works so that person can visualize what you're saying. And even though, Toney is the guru with the advanced in Excel. So when I do my teeny little Excel sheet, we laugh because he be like, what is this? I'm like, don't judge me. I'm doing this. It makes sense to me. You follow me. And then you can take this and make it read. As long as you're getting the same numbers, you can do your own formulas and all of that on your own sheet. But on my sheet, this makes sense for all these columns, right? So, but it's okay. But that was just just a transparent moment when Toney, talk about when you let go of that.
Yeah, so basically, I was managing the finances and pretty much taking care of the whole household. Even though the money was coming in, I was making sure the bills was getting paid, but it was just a lot trying to manage everything because you're paying the bills, you're making sure all the other necessities are taken care of, and it just became burdensome to me and just felt a weight on top of me. And then that's when I had that moment of help. I need help. Help me. And that's when I went to Sanita and said, hey, I'm doing the best I can. This is way too much for me to try to figure out what's going to go where, how this going to get paid when. You take this.
Right. And when that spouse comes to you, that's not the time to bash them and be like, see, you wait till now. We, not saying we was, drowning and, about to just fall out into the ocean. But what I'm saying is you cannot abuse the person once they do, because you're always saying you want transparency. You want them to be open. You want them to come to you. So when they do say, take a pause and be like, because you may learn that they really weren't doing that well or they weren't doing that bad. So now you have to kind of take on all of these things and you may have to ask questions. Now the person who relinquished it cannot also have the attitude of, well, I'm done. this on you.
Right.
Or if they start asking you questions, you can't be like, well, can't you just figure, I made the best. You can't be defensive.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't be all defensive when they start asking you, well, why did you do this? Or where are you on this? You can't be like, well, that's what I did. You can't be like that. So it goes both ways, but you have to compromise. So let's talk about, how about this one? Establishing boundaries when you making a purchase. So can you, even though you have, whether you got separate account, whether you have a joint account, let's talk about that. Do you as a couple have boundaries on what's the limit? Like, can you just go out and buy a $25,000 car because you got the credit, in your account, your finances say you can handle that payment? Do you just do it, or do you set boundaries and say anything over, just based on where you are financially, those numbers are going to be different? So maybe a $500 compromise. If anything over $500, you can go out there and spend money and buy that, buy clothes up to $500. Anything over $500, we need to sit down and have a conversation.
Well, I say conversation all the time. Conversation. Have a conversation and decide. It depends on where you are financially. If you have a family goal, if you have a family budget, you don't want to, if you have a family budget and you're planning for something, and even though you have all of this money in your account, you still don't want your spouse to go out and spend $25,000 on a car and not tell you.
Right.
When you know that you are trying to do something, or you're trying to create a college fund for your kids, or you have money allocated everywhere, even though you have a certain amount. Have a conversation before you make that decision, before you go out and make those big purchases. It just depends on your financial situation, whether you really can afford to do it, and whether that other person is going to be okay with it. Because you don't want someone to get into the position where they are abusing that. Right. Because, again, one person can be a saver, the other person can be a spender. So what if that saver wants to go out one day and purchase a $5,000 item and there's $4,000 in their account because the other person has been spending?
Right.
That's a fight on your hands.
That's a fight. And
That's
when the
a
fight
huge fight.
That's when the fight began, right?
Yes.
So definitely have a conversation. I see nothing wrong with having limits on how much you spend without saying something.
Right.
But with definitely big ticket items, you should definitely have a conversation beforehand. What if your spouse goes and buy you the car that you want?
You didn't
trying to surprise you,
and you didn't
and
bought
you've
it.
already
Y'all
bought
both
it,
pull up at the same
So you both
time,
pull up.
right?
Same color,
But that's true because, and I mean, and that's why I say I caveat it with based on where you are financially, based on where you are. Because if you both have a $5,000 limit, you go out and spend $5,000. I go out and spend $5,000. That's $10,000 that's gone. And hopefully, you wouldn't do it all, But if you've said that you can go out and make a purchase up to $5,000 on your own without talking to me, but that hopefully, even if you have that type of boundary, that even if you were going to the max of your boundary, that you would still talk to your spouse and be like, babe, I saw this washer and dryer set. It's, I know my cap is $5,000. The both of them are going to be $3,000. What do you think? Because they may be like, well, I saw something somewhere else that was for $2,500. Won't you go to Lowe's instead of another store? So I think it's just key so that now he or she knows that you're about to spend $3,000, and maybe they were going to go buy something, and now they might just say, well, I'll hold off until the next cycle, or however you predetermine how often you would do that.
But even with that scenario, you already know that you need a washer and dryer, and you've already had a conversation somewhere because something broke. Or you just need to replace it.
Or you just want a new one.
But you've had the conversation, so somebody's already out shopping for it. So for someone to call and say, hey, I found this deal. I'm sorry, for me, if I'm going to spend $5,000, I want to see that $5,000 tangible item right there in my face. I'm not going to just spend it on something frivolous and not see it again. But definitely, if you already know that you're buying something like that, you've had the conversation.
Right.
I'm talking about if you just go out and spend $5,000 and you see nothing in return.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's what we mean. Like, so that's with
a-
that boundary.
That's going to be a problem.
So
for
that's the
somebody.
boundary. Is if I'm going out with my girlfriends, if he's hanging out with his friends, like, what is your boundary? So regardless of what you spend it on, it's key to talk about what it is that you're able to spend.
Right.
So that's one thing. Okay, so so we talked about a little bit about, because this goes by so
really does.
fast, right?
After 10
So
already.
it's like, so how do you resolve conflict? I think we touched a little bit on it, but what are some ways people, if they are right now butting heads with each other about they can't see eye to eye, they can't balance their budget, they can't agree on a budget, they can't agree on what we should spend, what we should cut off. You're trying, like you talked about, saving. So, hey, we're trying to save. We got this goal. I want to cut off the cable. He doesn't. Or I want to cut off this phone, part of the service, but she doesn't. So how do we get to that place where we can compromise with resolution?
I think one way to do it is both of you step back from it for a moment, maybe a few days, step back from it, and then maybe the two of you can separately write out what it is that you think that you should do from this point forward. Write out the budget that you think the family should have, and the other person write out the budget that you think the family should have. Sit down and see where they mirror. Sit down and see where they're similar. If you can't come to an agreement there is nothing wrong. Like I said again, going out to get a financial planner.
The third party.
Get a third party. It's not going to hurt your family. It's not going to hurt your marriage to do that. The people have relationship issues. They go get a mediator. They go to counseling. They go to couples counseling, marriage counseling. What's wrong with getting financial counseling?
Because
just so
true.
that you can make the right decision for your family. But again, if one person is writing out the budget and expecting the other person to just go along with it, you're bound to butt heads. But if the both of you sit down and write out what you think is best.
Right, that's what I mean. They've
And
done
then
that. That ain't working.
together. Yeah,
like
but
you
then
said, just get the financial
planner. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just like getting a checkup.
Right.
You go to the doctor for whatever is ailing you. Go to a financial planner to help you sit down and map out the proper budget for your family, just based on the different things that you want. You may see that you have very similar goals, just different ways of getting to that goal.
Right.
Just different ways of writing out and executing the budget. You may find that you end up at the same point, at the same place.
Right.
You just have a different way of getting there, and you need another person to help you work through that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with a financial plan.
Nothing wrong with
I
that.
mean, it's worth the investment to go ahead. But last question, because this is key, because we're talking about blended families, we're talking about families, the children. All right, so I know a lot of times people run into budgetary constraints because some people, I won't say we, because I know how to tell my kids no, but sometimes we as parents don't know how to tell our children, whether they're 5, 3, 2, 1, or even teenagers, no. So we tend to overcompensate and give them, the new iPad, the new iPhone, the new shoes, and even if your child isn't into all of that, but maybe they're into other things, maybe they're into drawing, you just constantly just keep signing up for classes that you really can't afford. So it's not always materialistic, but it's your child that's in the store and they're like, I want that bubble gum. Can I have that bubble gum? Can I have this piece of candy? Can I have, this? Can I get that? Let's talk real quickly about how we talk to our children about money matters.
Wow. Well, I think you should start talking to your children as early as they can understand English. When they can start comprehending and having conversations with you, then that's when you talk about money with them. I know with my daughter, of course, we go into the store, and she's just like any 5-year-old. She wants everything she sees. But now, it's, Mommy, can I have this, or do I need to wait? Yes, you need to wait. And I can tell her, listen, we're not buying that today. We do not have money for that today.
Right.
This is what we're doing with our money. She wants to go to Disneyland. She wants to go to Paris. So guess what? We have to save our money and not spend our money on these things. I'm teaching her early now about spending habits, about saving, about budgeting, about having goals and plans. So yes, as early as they can comprehend, this is how we spend our money. This is how we manage our money. We don't just go into the store and just spend it on anything just because you want it. Do you need that bubble gum right now?
Right.
Or do you want to go to the dentist in about 6 months and get a cavity filled?
Right. Or do you want to go to Disney World?
Or do you want to go to Disney World?
So you got to give them the priority.
Exactly.
Right.
You tell them up front. You tell on the level that they understand, of course. And you cannot be afraid to tell your children no. I mean, you can't give everything. Some people can. I can't give her everything.
Right. And even if you
but
can,
even if I could.
but even if you can, they have to learn that there is boundaries and planning.
Right.
So even if you can afford to give them everything every time they walk in the store, they still have to learn that sometimes you're going to go in the store and you're not going to get anything. Sometimes you go in the store and you might have to wait. Sometimes you got to earn that thing. You know?
My grandmother used to threaten me before we went to the store. Don't ask for nothing. Don't touch nothing.
Don't touch nothing.
We're going to get this, this, and this, and that's it. We walking out. And I knew right then and there not to ask anything.
Well, she knows already that you have to work for everything. Right. She knows that she has to have a job. And instead of asking to give her toys away, she is now saying, listen, I'm going to sell these toys to my friends so that I can do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
You already know that this is how you make money. It's not going to just magically appear, but you talk to them on the level that they understand.
Right. And even though, so we use our good friend Shelby, who's 5. But if you have teenagers and things like that, and you haven't already started talking to them, listen, it's still not too late, because I'm going to tell you, there are classes that are even in the Maryland Parks and Planning that will, even if you don't do it or you take them to the bank, they'll do it. But like taking them into a class with peers who are learning financial planning, because a lot, as we know in schools, a lot of times they don't talk about money management. So these children leave high school and they have no real life skills. So it's up to the parents, for us grown-ups, to train them. And sometimes we can't train them because we don't know. So make that $20 investment at Maryland Parks and Planning and put them in the class. At least they'll get some sort of foundational information where they'll learn how to budget. They'll learn about credit cards. They'll learn about those things, because sometimes we as a community don't teach what we don't know.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
And so, especially about credit, right? Credit restoration. I mean, really, can we have credit restoration? That's a whole nother conversation, right?
Wow.
So we are down to the last 3 minutes. So I want Veronica to be able to tell you about her upcoming event, Better Days.
Thank you. So I will tell you really quickly, on this Saturday, March 16th, from 1 to 5 p.m. at the Essence of Movement Studio is the Better Days Conference, Living Your Best Life. We're going to talk about your relationship with money, your relationship with yourself, and your relationship with love. You don't want to miss it. And at the end of the class, we're going to have a yoga session, a seated yoga session, and it's going to be absolutely awesome. So go to betterdaysliving.eventbrite.com for your ticket. They're about $35. And I don't think you want to miss this one. This is going to be number 6, and I'm really excited about it. Yeah. And then you can find me everywhere on Facebook, on Instagram, Veronica Burnett, or Veronica Burnett, speaker advocate for healthy relationships, or you can find me at veronicaburnett.com.
Thank you so much, Veronica, for coming again. This hour goes by so fast, right? And when you're talking about trust and money, like we could have used a whole 2-hour segment to talk about finances and money. But it all comes down to transparency, compromise, and being flexible, right? And being open to change. And we gave a lot of nuggets. Look at your information, your life insurance, your estate planning, at least once a year, and have those hard conversations. It's not easy. It's, that's why they're hard conversations. But we have to talk about our money matters, because money matters is the #1 reason why most marriages fail.
Yes.
And so with that's that is our time for In the Mix with the Mitchells, where I am Sanita Mitchell.
I am Toney Mitchell.
And you can catch us here. And this is our good friend Ronnie. And please check out her conference. But you can catch us here
check it out.
every Thursday night from 9:15 to 10:15, where we're bringing you hot topics that's going to help you and your family improve. So we see you next week. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you all for joining. We love you.